You've compared yourself to someone recently, maybe even today. You saw their life, their body, their relationship, their success, the way people seem to notice them, and something in you sank. You walked away feeling smaller. You felt like your own life wasn't enough, and you probably hated yourself a little for feeling that way. But the truth is, you're not the only one. Almost everyone does this, and it eats us alive from the inside. That's why we need to talk about it. Comparison is one of the quietest ways we destroy ourselves. It doesn't come crashing in. It slips in. It shows up when you're scrolling, when you're sitting in a room with people, when you're supposed to be grateful but you're not. It's sneaky, and it convinces you of things that aren't true. It tells you you're behind when you're not. It tells you God forgot you when He hasn't. It tells you other people are more valuable than you, and that is a lie. The worst part is that when you compare, you're not even seeing the truth. You're looking at the parts of someone else's life they've chosen to show. Their success, their happy moments, their smiles. And you're stacking it against your struggles, your insecurities, your worst days. Of course, it feels like you come up short. It's not a fair fight. You're comparing their polished surface to your raw, unfiltered reality. But even if you could see their whole truth, the tears, the loneliness, the pain, you still wouldn't win by comparing. Because life was never meant to be a contest. God didn't make you to outrun or outshine anyone else. He made you to be you. And the second you make your life about competing with theirs, you've already lost something far more important. You've lost yourself. Think about this. When a tree grows, it doesn't look at the tree next to it and think, I wish I grew at your pace. I wish I had your shape. The oak doesn't envy the palm. The rose doesn't look at the sunflower and feel small. They just grow. They take the soil and the sunlight they're given, and they grow in their time. But people, we spend so much of our lives staring at the person next to us, wishing we had their life, while ignoring the life we've been given. But here's the trap. Comparison never ends. There will always be someone ahead of you. Someone smarter, prettier, richer, more successful, more noticed. If you live by comparison, you will never feel enough. Even if you reach your goals, even if you become the person you thought you wanted to be, you'll look around and find someone who has more. The finish line will keep moving, and you'll keep running yourself into the ground, trying to catch it. When you compare, if I could just have what they have, then I'd finally feel okay. But you won't, because the second you get it, comparison just shifts the target. You'll want what someone else has, and then someone else's. It never ends. What happens is it steals your gratitude. The more you compare, the less you see what you actually have. Suddenly, your blessings don't look like blessings anymore. Your progress feels invisible. Your life feels boring, but nothing about your life actually changed. The only thing that changed is your focus. Gratitude cannot live in a heart that's always staring at someone else's life, and it's deeper than that. Comparison doesn't just kill gratitude, it kills identity, because when you compare, you stop being yourself. You start adjusting, you start reshaping, you start living in a way that's not true to who you are, just to look a little more like them. And piece by piece, you lose what makes you, you. God didn't make you to be a copy of anyone else. The world doesn't need a second version of them. The world needs the first version of you. Do you realize God thought the world needed you, and you came here with a purpose? Before the time began, He said, the world will not be complete without you, without your story, without your voice, without the life I've given you. But if you spend your life trying to be somebody else, you'll never discover the reason you were created. You'll die with your true purpose still locked inside. Here's a hard truth. Comparison usually isn't about them, it's about you. It exposes the places you feel insecure. It shows where you don't trust God's timing for your life. It reveals what you've tied your worth to. For example, if someone's success makes you bitter, it's not because they did something wrong. It's because you secretly believe success is what makes you valuable. If someone's beauty makes you feel ugly, it's not because they're too beautiful. It's because you've tied your worth to appearance. Comparison is like a mirror. It shows you what you've been relying on instead of God. But let me tell you this, you don't have to carry their calling. You don't have to walk their timeline. You don't have to run their race. You only have to be faithful with what God gave you. That's it. And faithfulness will take you further than comparison ever could. Sometimes we compare because we think we're late. We're 25 and not married. We're 30 and not in the career we thought we'd be in. We're 40 and still struggling with the same battles we thought we'd outgrow. And then we see someone younger than us already doing what we dreamed of. And it feels like it's over for us. But who told you you're late? Who set that clock you're panicking over? Not God. His timing for your life is not tied to theirs. Moses didn't even step into his calling until he was 80. Joseph spent years in prison before his dream came to pass. David was out in the fields, overlooked, while his brothers were already in the army. If they compared themselves, they would have quit. But God was never late. He was preparing them. And He's preparing you, too. Comparison also turns people into competition. You stop seeing them as friends, as community, as people to learn from. You see them as threats. You resent them. You pull away. But here's the truth. Someone else's success does not take away from yours. Their story does not cancel yours. Their life doesn't erase yours. You are not in a competition. The same God who blesses them is the same God writing your story. And here's something many of us miss. Comparison can actually be pride in disguise. Because when we're constantly looking at others, what we're really saying is, my life only matters if I measure up to theirs. We're letting them decide our value. Pride makes you believe you have to prove yourself. Humility says, I don't need to prove anything. I just need to be faithful to what God gave me. So how do you break out of comparison? It's not as simple as just stop comparing. That doesn't work. The way out is to root your identity so deeply in God that you stop looking for it anywhere else. When you know that you are chosen, loved, forgiven, and created on purpose, you stop needing other people to define you. Because your worth isn't up for debate anymore. It's already sealed. Practically, this means when comparison whispers, you answer back. When you see someone succeed and jealousy creeps in, you remind yourself, if God is faithful to them, He will also be faithful to me. When you feel insecure about someone else's beauty, you remind yourself, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. When you feel behind, you remind yourself, my times are in His hands. You fight the lies with truth. You have to protect yourself from the things that feed comparison. For a lot of us, that's social media. You scroll for hours and then wonder why you feel empty. If it's poisoning your heart, limit it. Take a break. Guard your peace. Because what you allow into your mind shapes your heart. Gratitude is also one of the strongest weapons against comparison. Every time you feel yourself wishing for what they have, stop and thank God for what you do have. Say it out loud. Write it down. Gratitude changes your vision. It reminds you you're not forgotten. You're not lacking. You are cared for. Here's a perspective that might sting. Sometimes the thing you envy in someone else is the very thing God didn't give you on purpose. You think you want their success, that maybe your heart isn't ready for that kind of pressure. You think you want their relationship, but maybe it would have pulled you away from God. You think you want their money, but maybe it would have destroyed your dependence on Him. God knows what you can handle, and His no is often His protection. And maybe this will shock you, but some of the people you compare yourself to are secretly comparing themselves to you. You think they have it all, but behind closed doors, they might wish they had your peace, your courage, your resilience, your faith. You never really know what people are carrying. That's why comparison is such a waste. It's built on an illusion. At the end of your life, when you stand before God, do you want to say, "Lord, I didn't fully live because I was too busy wishing I was them"? Do you want Him to look back at you and say, "But I never asked you to be them. I asked you to be you"? Don't waste your calling chasing someone else's. So hear me. Stop comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Stop comparing your struggles to their smiles. Stop letting the enemy use their story to make you question God's goodness in yours. Your life is unfolding at the exact pace it's meant to. Your lane is yours. Run it well. Run it faithfully. And when you're tempted to look around, don't. Look up. Because your worth was never something you had to earn or prove. It was already given.